Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of Cosmos Crusaders. Our guest this week is Junellie González Quiles. She is a third year PhD student in the Earth and Planetary Sciences Department at Johns Hopkins, and we had a really great conversation with her. But before we get into our thoughts on that conversation and the interview itself, Simi's going to talk a little bit about her first 2 weeks in law school, which is very exciting.
Yes, thank you. It has been very exciting, but not as exciting as our interview with Junellie. So bear with me while I talk about this. But yeah, law school has been fun. It's been exciting. It's been really different than anything that I've experienced before. But I knew going in that I really wanted to do this, and I knew sort of what to expect. And of course, it's lived up to those expectations of just like being a lot of reading and time and hard work and dedication. But yeah, I knew what I wanted. I would advise anyone that's deciding on whether to go to law school. I know this is completely unrelated target audience, but if by the off chance you want to go to law school, like just make sure that you're sure because it's going to be a lot of dedication and time and money. So you want to make sure that the investment is certain in what you want. So just something to consider. But our interview with Junellie sort of gave both Gok and I some good advice about how to tackle grad school while still prioritizing ourselves and our needs and our wants and like enjoying life while still like studying and doing well in school. So I don't know if Gok had like any specific takeaways or things that Junellie described that work for him. So do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I guess a lot of things that she talked about was how to prioritize your mental health during graduate school and just like things that you could do, steps to take to make sure that you have a strong mental during the whole process because graduate school is a long period of time in your life. Well, I guess not a long period of time in your life, but a long period of time you're going to sort of study within like the next chapter of your life. And um, it's also important to make sure that your mental is good during that time. So she gives a lot of really good tips on how to practice self-care and how to just prioritize yourself, even with all of the demands and rigors of graduate school. So I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had from the interview that I want to thank Junellie for being so candid about, because I think that'll actually help a lot of people. Just hearing that from another graduate student who's been wildly successful in their career already, and making sure that it's known that it's okay and it's good and you should prioritize yourself and your mental health even during graduate school. But yeah, that was the biggest thing that I took away from Junellie's interview. And yeah, she talks about a lot of other things, and I think that the conversation was really great. So yeah, it was really exciting, and we're all very proud of you, Simi, for starting law school and going through your first 2 weeks already. So you've been doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
So yeah, so now we will get into our interview with Junellie. So thanks for watching. We are excited to have Junellie González Quiles as our 7th guest on Cosmos Crusaders. So Junellie is a PhD student at Johns Hopkins University in the Earth and Planetary Sciences Department. She got her bachelor's in astronomy with a minor in planetary science from the University of Maryland, College Park. She did a post-bac year at NASA Goddard, and she's also a member of the Women of Color Project, the League of Underrepresented Minoritized Astronomers, and GeoLatinas. So, welcome, Junellie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, we're so excited. We're just gonna go ahead and start off by talking about your current research. So we know that you like broadly study the modeling of geographical, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Geological, this keeps happening to me. Geological processes in exoplanets. But if you could just explain that in more detail.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, my work is very interdisciplinary, and I'm really lucky that as a student at Hopkins, I have a lot of nearby places that I can do collaborations with. And so actually I'm part of this big interdisciplinary collaboration called the Consortium on Habitability and Atmospheres of M-dwarf Planets, or for short, CHAMPS. And so this group is trying to understand and characterize planets around M-dwarfs, and specifically look at the environment and see what the possibility and how life could happen in those planets. So I work on a very specific part of answering that big question of looking at planets around other stars, specifically around M-dwarfs, which are smaller stars than our sun. And my specific project, I work with Professor Laura Schaefer from Stanford University, and our work consists of modeling the interior of these planets. And more specifically, I'm focused on the TRAPPIST-1 system, which is an M-dwarf star that has 7 planets around it. And what is great about these planets is that they're all pretty small. They're comparable to Earth size. And so there's actually a couple in what astronomers call the habitable zone. And so what I do is that I look at these planets and I take geological processes that happen on Earth. So basically trying to model plate tectonics, modeling geochemical cycles like the carbonate silicate cycle, which is basically how carbon goes from the interior to the atmosphere and then back to the interior again. Similarly, the deep water cycle, how water is also recycled in the interior of a planet. And so I take all of these processes and then I apply them to these planets, and then I see what happens with these planets and what the atmospheric composition ends up being and how it evolves over time. So that's what I mainly work on.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. And as you mentioned, it seems very interdisciplinary. So it seems like you're sort of working at the cross section of astronomy, planetary science, and geology. So in the exoplanets field as a whole, I guess, what are the different types of science that each of these different groups do? And like, what are some of the overlaps and differences? And how do you hope to bridge any of these gaps in these fields through your research specifically? And also, like, which one of those 3 do you feel like you're like the most part of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, I know we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but my preparation is in astronomy, and now my PhD, I'm doing it in planetary science. So I've actually had an opportunity to get a little bit of preparation in both fields. And so I would say that astronomers, astrophysicists work more on detection and observations, what we can observe with telescope, with instruments, and trying to understand what do we see and try to explain it. And then there's also geologists in terms of Earth that focus on the processes that happen on Earth, the materials on Earth, and the different processes that happen here. And I would say planetary science is in the intersection of that. So planetary science focuses on also, other planets, but also the solar system and other moons and other bodies, basically. And so I would say it's an intersection because so planetary scientists, some planetary scientists I know also work on lab work. They try to recreate what we see in other planets, in other systems, and try to recreate it in a lab and see if we can understand what is happening so that we can further explain our observations. And so I would say that a gap that I've seen is that, for example, I went to a conference a while back when I was an undergrad, and I noticed that I went to many talks, and I noticed that there were a lot of astronomers that I felt like were kind of reinventing the wheel when I had seen other planetary scientists or other geologists already modeling or already studying these processes on Earth, or on other bodies in the solar system. And I thought, like, why can't we use those that research, those models, those things that we already understand, and try to put them forward to understand exoplanets more in depth. And so that's kind of like something that I noticed and that I'm really interested in pursuing in my career, is to be able to bridge all of that together and bring it all together so that we can have a bigger understanding of a full picture of what we're seeing with exoplanets. And I didn't mention there's also other fields that are very important for understanding planets, like chemistry, biology, in the search for life in other systems, and all of these come together. And so I think that's what I'm really interested in, is the interdisciplinary approach to study planets in general. And so to answer your last question about which one I align more, I would say that I think I feel like I'm definitely an astronomer, but I feel like since I'm so interdisciplinary, I would call myself more of a planetary scientist. But yeah, so that's what I align more with.
That's really awesome. I'm looking forward to see like how all these things come together and what that results in, I guess. But looks like you have the same goal. But I was wondering more specifically about the planets that you've studied and that you've worked with, I guess. Are there any that really stand out to you as being just like really unbelievable and different in like composition and how we see them than the ones that we're used to in our solar system?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So now up to today, there's already more than 5,000 exoplanets that have been discovered. So there's so many planets that that we found that are so different. And so there's actually a couple that are interesting. I'm kind of biased because I'm working a lot with TRAPPIST-1 system, and they're all in similar size and mass to our Earth. And so that is very interesting in the prospect for searching, for life, and trying to understand, the environment and what it takes to have life in another planet. And so, but in general, like some planets that are pretty cool, I would say, like this is not a specific planet, but like rogue planets, I don't study them, but they exist. So rogue planets are planets that don't orbit a star. They're basically in between, like, just out there in between stars, basically. And that is really interesting. I think that's a really cool aspect of exoplanet science that I think newer telescopes are definitely going to help answer and try to understand more about these rogue planets. But there's also another category of planets that are called super Earths. And so these planets are bigger than our Earth, are still rocky or terrestrial, as we call them. And so this is really interesting because astronomers have actually found that a lot of the planets that we find that are that have been found around stars are actually, a lot of them are super Earths, and that's really interesting to see, because then it poses a question of, is our solar system unique? So is our solar system not a common system that we find around other stars? And so I know a really cool planet is the 55 Cancri E. It has a really interesting theory behind it. So basically, astronomers thought that it had a diamond interior. I think recent studies have kind of led towards that, but basically it's still a really interesting planet that is out there, and astronomers are also looking into. And there's also Kelt 9b. That's a very, very hot planet. I believe that's the hottest exoplanet. So that's really interesting just to see the wide range of planets that there is.
Yeah, those all sound really interesting. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of different types of planets out there. And I don't know too much about exoplanet science, but from the little that I do know, it seems like a very, very interesting field. So now getting into a little bit of your background. So we were wondering, when did you know that you wanted to study astrophysics? So growing up in Puerto Rico, it must have been a really big decision to pursue a higher education in the States. So could you just describe your journey and how you sort of got here?
Yeah, I would be happy to talk about my journey. Thank you for asking. So, yeah, so actually, I fell in love with space when I was like in fifth grade. Actually, that's how far back it goes. I actually had the opportunity to look through a telescope when I was in fifth grade, one of those small telescopes, but I was able to look at the moon and like Saturn, and I was just in awe. I just loved it, and ever since that moment, I was like, I want to study space. Even though at the moment I didn't even know, like, the field is called astronomy and anything and everything. And so when I actually got into high school, I started looking into opportunities that for me to learn more about space and more about astronomy. And my senior year of high school, I actually had the wonderful opportunity to do research at the Arecibo Observatory, which unfortunately, fell and is no longer functional. But back then, it was such an amazing opportunity to participate in a program in the Arecibo Observatory. And that basically helped me confirm that I wanted to study astronomy. And so I started looking into schools to apply to pursue a bachelor's degree in astronomy. And so back then, I actually discovered that no university in Puerto Rico offers specifically a bachelor's degree in astronomy. The closest that you could get was a physics degree, and I think you could maybe do a concentration, but it wasn't like a full-on astronomy program. And so I started looking at schools in the States just to see. And it was really daunting because I came from a small school in Puerto Rico, and it was actually a really difficult like process because not a lot of students in small schools know the process of even applying to undergraduate schools in the States. And so it was a very hard process, but I looked for a lot of resources. I was lucky that the people in the program that I was part of, the Arecibo Observatory, helped me out. And so I found a couple of schools and I applied, and to my surprise, I got in, I got accepted, and I ended up attending University of Maryland College Park. And I chose University of Maryland because they have specifically a Department of Astronomy. And that looked really attractive to me. I really wanted to have the full experience of learning all about astronomy. I didn't know that I was going to be doing exoplanet research then. So I was just really interested in everything. And yeah, and so I attended UMD, or University of Maryland, and I that's how I got into astronomy. So yes, so that's been a little bit about my journey into like getting into astronomy, basically.
That's such a like inspiring backstory. That's really awesome. Um, how did like when you came here, how did you know that you wanted to be a part of these organizations? I think there's multiple, like you're in Women Plus of Color Project, the League of Underrepresented Minoritized Astronomers, and GeoLatinas. So did your background sort of like influence your aim in joining these organizations? And how do you like, what do you think these orgs aim to achieve in the end?
Yeah, so something I didn't talk about much is that when I started University of Maryland, you know, I moved from Puerto Rico, and it was actually a really difficult time. I had a lot of trouble with language barriers. I had to, you know, in Puerto Rico you learn English, you know, in school, but you don't really practice it conversationally, and so it was really difficult that first year to adjust to college life, to adjust to a new culture, to adjust to a new language. And so yeah, it was kind of difficult. But yes, so I yeah, so it was a pretty challenging time, but yeah, it was it definitely made me see that people like me, people from Puerto Rico, Latinos, and other underrepresented groups don't have the same experience as, let's say, our white peers in our classes. And so I didn't realize that at the beginning. I knew that I was struggling, but I didn't realize until later on in my undergrad. And so that made me realize that I wasn't alone, and that other underrepresented students were also going through similar experiences than me. And so this made me reach out to other students from similar backgrounds and connect with them. And that was very, very important for me in like being able to succeed and being able to graduate my undergraduate degree. And so yes, I would say definitely having experienced what it is to be a Latina in the States, I definitely was very interested in joining organizations that were very interested in helping us succeed. And so that's where I first learned about GeoLatinas. It's an organization that aims to bring together Latinas, Latinx people, and in the Earth and planetary sciences fields. And there's many things that we do. There's seminars, there's writing accountability sessions. There's so many things that the group helps with. And then I came across the Women of Color project, actually by another student in my department who is involved in it. And the Women of Color project has been great because the Women of Color project specifically focuses on the graduate application process. So applying to PhD programs, applying to master's programs for women of color. And so I think that was very important. And I thought that it was really great for me to join, because I know that also when I was applying to graduate schools, it was very, very challenging because my undergraduate experience had not been the same as other students, and it was not linear and it was non-traditional. And so I thought that was very important to help other students in that process. And then finally, this year, I came across the LUMA, or the League for Underrepresented Minoritized Astronomers. And so, so I got really excited and I joined, and it has actually like helped me so much because they also have accountability circles, they have like buddy systems, they have they provide workshops, and Luma specifically focuses on helping grad students and above to be able to succeed in their PhD programs and being able to get through grad school, but also connect with other women of color in the astronomy and related fields. So I think all of these organizations are really great, and they all come together to provide, I feel like, a full like support network for students in these fields. And I think it's been really important for me to join, not only because I want to help other students, but it has also helped me. And I think it's just a great, those three organizations have been amazing. and I'm really excited to keep being part of it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. It's great that you're able to find a community of people to support you and that you could support, so that you guys could have really good careers in the field. So that's really great to hear. Um, so now talking about your time at UMD a little bit, how would you describe your overall experience there during your undergraduate years?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, it wasn't easy. Um I want to put it out there, and for the longest time I kind of hid it, but I wasn't a straight A student. I wasn't I didn't have great grades. I struggled a lot. I failed a couple of classes. Um and I think that's okay. I think that I want to mention it so that other students that have similar experiences like know that it's going to be okay. At the moment I thought, oh my god, like I'm not going to make it, but I just want to put out there that I was able, like I'm still in graduate school, I'm still pursuing my education, I'm still pursuing my career, and I've been able to work through it, and I think that's very important to mention. And so so my time at UMD, it was very busy. I was involved in a lot of organizations, and I think also, trying to adjust to the classes, but also trying to do extracurriculars. I didn't realize that I was taking on too much, and I kind of burned myself out, I would say. And so, yeah, I definitely learned a lot from the professors. Like I had some great classes in the astronomy department. Um, but yeah, it was definitely challenging, and there's so many components to it that made some parts challenging. But I was really grateful that towards my junior senior year, I found a great uh support network. I connected with other women in my classes, and we had our own groups and to study, and that was so important for us to just put all of the expectations aside and just be human, and just try to learn together without judgment. And I think that was very important for me. So I would say my undergraduate degree was very challenging, but I definitely did learn a lot about myself and about astronomy. And so I definitely want to say that also my degree wasn't linear. Like, I didn't graduate in 4 years. I took a semester off to focus on my mental health in between, and I graduated basically in 4.5 years. So it definitely didn't have the exact timeline, but I thought that was very important to mention, that it's okay to not take the time that people say you should take. It's okay to take a little bit longer if you need it.
That was really reassuring advice. Thank you. I'm sure a lot of people, it will help them as well. Hopefully, if you're watching this. So adding to all the stuff that you were already going through during undergrad, you also had 6 different research internships, which is a lot. So how did that go? How did that work out? And was there a specific project or internship you were in that kind of helped steered you towards exoplanets?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So thank you for reminding me. So actually, during undergrad, I had the amazing opportunity that to do several internships. And I remember when I started my freshman year, I was like, well, I'm taking classes, but I want to be able to apply it to a real project, be able to work with data and be able to take on a project. And so I actually started applying to internships my freshman year. Definitely not required. I definitely did it because I was interested and wanted to learn more. But but I applied, and I remember applying my freshman year and being like, I may not get any because these are very competitive, and I'm a freshman, I'm just starting, but I'm gonna apply anyways and see what happens. And to my surprise, I actually got into an internship at NASA Goddard. And that was through the National Astronomy Consortium, or the NAC program. And so that was extremely helpful because they, not only did I have my research project, but the program provided me with workshops on grad school, like work-life balance, like and anything really that I didn't know about coming from Puerto Rico. And that was very helpful. I remember learning that at that internship, like what a qualifying exam is. I had no idea what it was. And so, yeah, it was extremely beneficial that summer. And it was my first exposure to research. And I remember that I realized I wasn't liking as much the research that I was doing then, but I still went a lot to the colloquium talks that they had at Goddard. And I actually went to an exoplanet talk, and I was like, oh my God, I understand it. I like it. I think this is super interesting. And but I didn't leave it there. I like brought it up to the program person, the program administrator, and she was like, oh my God, we can connect you with people in exoplanets, and like we can get you to do a research project specifically for exoplanets. And I was like, oh my God, that's great. So then I was connected with Dr. Johanna Teskey at Carnegie Institution for Science. And that was my first experience with like exoplanet research. And I loved it too, because it was also like my very first project was also very interdisciplinary. We were trying to basically recreate in a lab the interior conditions and try to understand and connect that to abundances that we see in other star planet hosts, basically. And I thought that was really interesting, and I really loved the interdisciplinary part of it. And I'm actually really grateful that my first exoplanet experience was already that interdisciplinary. So I thought that was really, really cool. And I loved it. And yeah, and from there, I didn't look back. I like kept applying to opportunities and exoplanets. And basically every project after that had to do with exoplanets in some sense. So yeah, so I would say, like, if you're a student, an undergrad or high school, and you go to a talk and you find something interesting, don't keep it to yourself. Definitely tell people that your advisors or other people that you know, and try to have people connect you with other scientists that work on those fields. And definitely networking is great and has helped me a lot. And so I think I was really fortunate to be able to do so many internships in my undergrad, because I think that really did prepare me for grad school.
That's a really like cool way that you found your interest in exoplanets. Yeah, definitely just talking to people and making connections is super important in this field for sure. So yeah, don't keep anything to yourself when it comes to research and stuff like that. So yeah, so after UMD, you took a gap year and you stayed at NASA Goddard and you ended up working there for a year. So why did you decide to take this gap year, and what was your year working at Goddard like?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, my undergraduate studies were very challenging, and I definitely feel like I pushed myself a lot. I tried to do a lot in 5 years essentially. And so I applied to grad schools actually my last semester at UMD during my undergrad. But after I applied and I started hearing back, I realized, like, I don't think I'm ready for, the rigorous, process that is grad school. And I realized that I was burned out and that I needed to take a break, basically from classes. It more like, because I still was doing research, but definitely needed to take a break from like all the deadlines and all, all of that. And I wanted to make sure that when I started grad school, I was in the right place mentally and that I was ready to give it all. And so I decided to look for, I didn't even know they existed, but I started looking for positions, or research positions that I could take. And I found out that there's a position called a postbaccalaureate, which is a research position right after undergrad. And they have a lot of those actually through NASA Goddard, specifically through CREST. It's a contractor. And so, yes, so definitely like it was great finding those. And so I applied and then I got in, and I absolutely adore NASA Goddard. I had a great time. My advisors were great. My collaborators were great. The other postbacks and the other interns were great. Like I made connections that they're gonna last me for life. We're still friends even years after. And so I'm just really grateful that I had that amazing opportunity to pursue a postbac there, because it really helped me, take a step back, heal, and like focus on my mental health while still gaining, good research experience. And then I was fully ready to take on grad school and pursue the PhD. So yes, I absolutely love the NASA Goddard. They have the astrophysics and the planetary science divisions are great. And I've actually had amazing experiences there. And I'm so grateful that I had those. And Goddard also has organizations like groups and for like Latinos, and that was great to also connect with other Latinos within the center. And so yes, so I had a wonderful time, and I'm really grateful that I had the chance to do that. And I definitely do want to tell other students that if you feel like you want to take a break from classes and all of the hard work that our deadlines and all of that, definitely consider doing a postbac. They exist in different divisions, not only in like, exoplanets or planetary science is what I'm doing, but they also have them in other fields. And so they may be called something different, but definitely ask around and look around, and those opportunities do exist.
Yeah, that's really great advice as well. People always need breaks from school. And it's good that it worked out for you and you were still able to meet a lot of great people and do the research that you wanted. But now going back to the grad school admissions process, how was it for you? Like, why did you end up choosing Hopkins?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, the graduate applications process is so arduous and like so difficult. But definitely like finding like a network of people, like a group of people that you can help, like that you can basically get support from, and also do it alongside like other peers, that was like very important to me. And definitely, yeah, I would write my applications with other students that were in the same boat, and we would have like these writing parties. And definitely finding people to support you in your process makes it a little less daunting. And yeah, I remember applying to grad schools. I definitely reached out to a lot of professors beforehand, asking if they were taking students and what their research was like, and getting to know them a little bit more. I think I was able to meet some when I went to AAS, the American Astronomical Society meeting, and other conferences. And that definitely helped me get a better sense of what the advisors would be like. And then when I had acceptances and I actually visited, that's when I got the full story of the department and the the environment of the department and all of that. And So something I didn't mention is that in my undergrad studies, I actually, my very last research experience was with a professor, Professor Junellie, at Johns Hopkins in the same department that I'm in. And so that connected me to Hopkins. And so I already had some interactions with people in the department. I had a little bit of a sense of what the department was like. And yeah, so when I, fully visited Hopkins for grad school, I actually really liked the department. Like, I absolutely love the people. The people are amazing. They're so supportive. The faculty, all of the faculty, all of the students, like, it's just, they're such great people. I literally can't complain. They're amazing. And yeah, and I also really liked a couple of different things about Hopkins. So the Earth and Planetary Science department, we don't have like required classes. We just take classes that you discuss with your advisor you should take, which, leaves a little bit of relief and a little bit of more flexibility. And I really like that about the department. Yeah, and I absolutely love the people in the department. And yeah, I found it to be a really great supportive environment. And so I chose Hopkins, knowing also that I could also pursue interdisciplinary research. So yes, so that was very important to me, to be able to have the flexibility to pursue interdisciplinary research as well, in and outside of Hopkins. So yeah.
That's great. That's really good to hear that you ended up at a place that you're enjoying and that everyone is really nice. I hope that everyone else can have the same experience. But I have a question for you because I'm in my first 2 weeks of grad school right now, and I was wondering if you could give advice to me or people in the same boat as me as to how to sort of prioritize your own self-care and maintain a work-life balance when, like, at the end of the day everyone just wants to do well in school. So like how do you kind of handle both of them, or how should I as I continue on with my grad school career?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm so glad that you asked that because I think it's very, very important. And I think I personally feel like I just figured out a system that works for me like this year. So like, yeah, I think it's such an important topic to cover. I think when you're starting, I would say definitely talk to your advisor about expectations, about everything. Communication, how are you going to communicate? What is the proper way that you want to communicate? If you're not in person, like email, Slack, what do you deem appropriate for yourself and for your advisor? Definitely set healthy, I would say like work boundaries. Basically, like, I don't work any time outside of like 5-6 p.m. every day, every work day. And I definitely try to not work on the weekends. And I think that's very important. I would say the thing that has also helped me the most is finding a therapist. I think regardless, you should always have a therapist. They're so amazing and they can help you so much. So yeah, I think that's like very, very important. And I know sometimes some institutions may not have it easy to find a therapist, but definitely reach out to find resources and talk to other students in the department, how they found therapists. So definitely, I think that would be very important. And I think just like finding other stuff outside of like the department and just science in general that you like to do. So like, for example, for me, I found a love for knitting now. Like, I love to knit. I literally just found yoga like 2 months ago and I absolutely love it. And like my Hopkins offers like a lot of like classes, like gym classes, group fitness classes. And so that has been great to just like go to those as well, to just take care of my physical being. And so, yeah, I definitely would say excuse me, like find things that you really love to do outside of academia and science, and definitely like keep up with it, because that'll yeah, definitely help you, debrief from the day, or take a step back, and that actually will help you mentally. When you're coming back to your work, you come with like a more renewed mind, and so you can properly like work on it. And so I think that has been very important, like setting expectations with your advisor, I think, are very, very important. And yeah, I would say another thing is also yeah, don't be afraid to speak up. If something isn't working, talk with your advisor, or talk with other grad students. And I think that's very important. I think not if possible, not taking everything as it is. If there's something that you think should improve, I think definitely speaking up would be great.
Yeah, that's all really, really good advice that I will also definitely keep in mind during my time in grad school. Um, so now sort of just leading on that question, when we're talking about like departments in specific, for example, Hopkins, or like I'm at UMD, or whatever institution anyone who's at this listening to. So what steps do you think that graduate departments can take to show that they actually prioritize the mental health of their students? So specifically, do you think there are any like actionable items that you have in mind that you want, like Hopkins, for example, to implement?
Yeah. So I yeah, actually a great question, and I've actually been thinking about that myself a lot. So it differs by university, um, and it's been a while since I've been at UMD, so I don't know if anything has changed. But I know a lot of institutions in general, they have like a counseling center, which are great resources, but usually they don't offer more than like a couple of sessions for free for students, or they don't offer like long-term solutions for the student, basically a long-term therapist for the student. And so I definitely think as an institution, they as institutions, they should definitely like divert more money into these programs, because they're so important, to be able to have students have a good mental health and have a good experience in their programs. And so in specific grad programs, I would say like definitely bringing up letting the students know the resources that exist, and if they need long-term solutions, what kind of things other students in the department have done. And I think providing those resources very early on are a really great thing. But yeah, especially like just having students in the department talk to any incoming students about all of these mental health resources, I think is very important. But I think this is kind of like a tangent, but I would say also in terms of like grad programs, I think it, and something that I would like Hopkins to act on, and the department is actually acting on it right now, is that we should all have an adequate and fair stipend to be able to live in. I feel like a lot of my like struggles, and like a lot of other students, like struggles have been, in terms of like being able to live with the stipend that they are provided. And so I feel like if grad programs can provide a fair stipend and a good stipend that students can live on, then I feel like a lot of things that happens to us like grad students worrying about, like, how am I going to be able to afford rent? How can I find a housing that I can, afford? I think this is something I don't think it's talked about, but it does have an impact on your mental health, worrying about all these things constantly. Like, do I have enough money to even eat this week? And I definitely think that, all across institutions, stipends should be increased. And that's something that actually our department is asking Hopkins, and we're working actively on getting a raise for the grad students in our department and other departments as well, I know are very active on this. So yeah, definitely, I think that's also very, very important. But yes, that's something that we're actively working on with Hopkins, and I really hope that other institutions also step up, because yeah, it's really difficult to be able to live on the low stipends that exist now.
Yeah, that's really true. And you all work much harder than your pay reflects. So I hope that some changes can be implemented as well. I'm gonna move a little bit along and like try and talk about your future now. So you're in your third year. Have you started thinking about your thesis and what the main questions are that you want to explore?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it all comes back to what I started talking about at the beginning, just the very interdisciplinary approach to studying exoplanets. And I think this first project that I've been working on is like a great starter for that, because, it brings together our knowledge of like geological processes on Earth and tries to like apply them to exoplanets, and then see if we can connect those two observations. So definitely something that I'm thinking about for my thesis is to be able to focus on modeling these processes on exoplanets, and then connecting them to observations of atmospheres of exoplanets. So I think we need to connect what we model and what we understand so far of like the interiors of planets, because a lot of that influences the atmospheres of these exoplanets. So being able to connect both and being able to say like, okay, these processes may be leading to these features in atmosphere spectra, I think is very, very important. And so that's what I'm broadly interested in pursuing in my thesis. So.
Well, that sounds like really interesting work, and good luck. Yeah, so very excited to see where that research takes you. So now going a little bit even further into the future, where do you sort of see yourself in 10 years? Do you think you want to stay in academia, become a research scientist, go to industry? It's also okay if you don't know at the moment, but just like, what are your thoughts on it right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's something that I'm actively thinking about, but I think I'm considering right now between science communication and also like pursue a career as a research scientist. I think those two are very appealing to me right now. I'm not sure if I would stay in academia as a professor, but it's something that I am considering. So all to say, I'm not very sure yet, but yes, I have those two careers in mind.
Good luck. That's really exciting. For your organizations like LUMA and the Women of Color Project and GeoLatinas, do you have any events or plans for the future that you're excited about? And how do you personally hope that you can help them expand?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So so actually the Women of Color Project is hosting a graduate school 101 workshop, about applying to grad school in October 14th of this year, and applications are being accepted right now. And so if you're an undergrad that is interested in pursuing a PhD or a master's degree in STEM fields, definitely apply. It's a great organization, and I am part of the social media team, so I'm really excited to expand this further and create collaborations with other organizations. So yeah, definitely if you're an undergrad, a Women of Color undergrad, you want to apply to grad school, definitely apply to the Women of Color Project workshop. And then LUMA is also hiring, or they're accepting also applications for you to join. So I know if you're very interested, you can definitely join the group. You just have to fill out an application, and it's very simple. And then you can join the team. And it's a really great community just to be a part of. And you just get a lot of support from other women of color, and it's just really great. So yeah, so definitely look out for that. And once you join, there's many workshops and other things that you can do throughout the academic year pertaining to different things. And for GeoLatinas, yeah, there's so many things always going on with the group that, yeah, once you're part of it, like every day there's something new happening. There's always like the accountability writing meetings, and I know there's a lot of other great initiatives that are taking place right now. So definitely look out for those and go to the websites for all three of them. And they're also all on social media. So definitely reach out if you're interested. But yes, I'm really excited to be part of the social media team for the Women of Color Project. And yeah, I'm really excited to keep being part of these organizations and in the future contribute in any way that I can.
Definitely, all three organizations sound really amazing. So yeah, everyone listening to this, go check them out. They're doing really good stuff. So yeah, so we're reaching the end of our interview, and we always like to end with some quick hitters. So real quick, so what are your three favorite things about Maryland now that you've spent a good amount of time here?
Yeah, I've been here now for 8 years. So yes, I've been here for quite a bit. But yes, three things that I like about Maryland. Let's see. So I love that it's very close to DC. There's so much to see in Washington, DC that I just love that we're so close to it. I love Baltimore. I absolutely love Baltimore. It's such a great city. Definitely is amazing. Like you get all of the city stuff, like, you know, the inner harbor, and there's so many things to see there, but you also get a lot of parks and places that you can go that are beautiful around here. So I absolutely love Baltimore for that, and there's just so much happening all the time. It's such a great city. And yeah, I absolutely love about Maryland, I guess this is more general, but well, more specific Maryland. But basically, there's this Renaissance festival that happens every year. And if you didn't know, Maryland's official sport is jousting, and jousting happens at the Renaissance Fair. So it's actually really fun to just go and see the festival and see the jousting taking place. It's really fun. So yeah, I would say those three things.
That actually does sound really fun. This is not my question, but do you dress up at the Renaissance Fair when you go?
Yes, you can. Yeah, people dress up. I definitely have dressed up.
That's so cute.
It's so fun. It's really fun.
That's exciting. Okay, complete 180. What are your three favorite facts about exoplanets?
Yeah, three fun facts. Let's see. So I love the fact that most of the stars that you see have at least one planet around it. I think that's like it's just mind-boggling, I think, to me. I think another thing, another fact, another fun exoplanet fact, it's the fact that rogue planets exist. I know I mentioned this before, but I think that's really interesting. I think that's really cool. And then let's see. And then I would say like a third exoplanet fact, yeah, is the fact that our solar system seems to be, you know, it doesn't seem to be found as common in our galaxy as, you know, for example, super Earths or some other type of planet. So yeah, I find really interesting that the planets in our solar system are so unique.
Cool. Yeah, those are all really interesting facts about exoplanets. The next question we have is your three favorite Puerto Rican dishes.
Yes, I'm so happy you guys asked that. So yeah, so three favorite Puerto Rican dishes. I would say I absolutely love like the common like fried chicken with like our seasoning and like rice and beans done with like all of our seasonings. And another one is flan. I love flan. It's a great dessert. And let's see. I'm trying to think of another one. I think oh man, I'm blanking out. I think another dish. Oh, another one that is very very Puerto Rican is pasteles. Absolutely love them. We usually have them for the holidays. Amazing. So really delicious. So definitely if you ever in Puerto Rico, or if you have Puerto Rican friends that make these things, definitely try out the flan, the pasteles, and the general chicken with rice and beans. Yeah.
Those all sound really good. In the Philippines, we also have like flan, but I think it's probably different. So I want to try the Puerto Rican one.
Yeah.
But this is the last quick hitter we have for you. It's what's your favorite act of self-care?
Yeah. I think for me, let's see, act of self-care, I definitely feel like yoga and meditation is like a big act of self-care for myself. Like during grad school, I recently found yoga and it has been amazing. Like it's just a time to just focus on myself and debrief from the day, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, definitely. I also got into yoga recently, so I think that it has been helpful for me as well. So yeah, I think that's really good advice for a lot of grad students for something to get into maybe. But yeah, so that is all we had. Thanks so much for coming on. We really enjoyed talking to you, and yeah, so thanks for coming on. It was great.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a wonderful conversation. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. No, I'm grateful too. I learned a lot and it was really good advice overall.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you.